Hello and welcome. It is Mega Power March. It is March 25th, 2021. It is 1:30. I do not feel good. God damn you, COVID shot. You should at least give me superpowers. And, can't talk about Mega Power March without talking about superhero games. We can't talk about superhero games without talking about, of course, GURPS Supers, which I believe I have talked about hundreds and hundreds of times before. But, obviously, one more time. GURPS Supers, which I play tested, wrote, complained about, played, loved for about 5 minutes, and then just like, oh god, this system. I have so many mixed feelings about GURPS Supers. I mean, obviously, point-based Supers has been done. We had Champions. We had lots of other systems that keep trying to do point-based systems. Even today, we have, point-based systems, Mutants and Masterminds, Bash, whatever it is, Vigilantes is called now, the Protectorate. And I think GURPS is still, I don't know what's going on with GURPS. I think it's still around. I don't know if my name is in the GURPS books anymore. I have a feeling I've been blackballed because I blatantly complain about things about GURPS. GURPS should be a very simple system. It should be everything that you found complicated about Champions, and then just like, hey, here's a way to do point-based, which is actually simple and easy to understand, which originally it was. I mean, there was a reason why everybody dumped whatever they were playing at the time and switched to GURPS, because it was very easy to build the characters exactly the way you saw them in your mind without dealing with the hims and haws and whatever, the maze of whatever other system. Where I was at the time, it was a lot of D&D games, some other games, a couple homebrew games, and everybody just kind of converted their systems to GURPS. So some of it worked, some of it didn't work. Obviously, a 5th, 8th level D&D character isn't a 100-point GURPS character. Some of them had to be 300-point characters. And even then, the conversion doesn't really work. So there's definitely things I like about GURPS Supers. There's definitely things I didn't like about GURPS Supers. It tried really hard, but I think point-based Supers only works in point-based super games like Champions and Mutant Masterminds. I am not a fan of point-based games, but that's simply because the math is very difficult for me. In fact, the only point-based game I've never had a problem with is Savage Worlds, but that's a completely different topic for a completely different vlog. So, yeah, on its, simply it should be 3d6, blah, 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 it's the thing, but yeah. Now, here's I've told this story before, and if you want to talk about a game that just is all eventually, on whether it meant to be or not, was all about optimization, you can't go farther than GURPS. GURPS didn't start out being a game about optimization. It was all about supposed to be how easy it was, but it eventually, because of the splat books and because how easy it was to break the GURPS math, it did become a game about min-maxing and optimization. Case in point, the Vampire Horse. Because Vampire is a 100 points disadvantage, but Horse is a 100-point advantage from Horse clans. Or was it the other way around? Horse being a 100-point disadvantage and Vampire being a 100-point advantage. Either way, because you could use disadvantages in GURPS to pay off advantages, you had a net sum of 0 by playing a Vampire Horse. So, yeah, and there was other things that were didn't make sense because of the way the point math worked in GURPS, that you could do things like that. Obviously, Vampire Horse is the most extreme, and it doesn't really make sense, but it's just an example of how, you could have in GURPS Horse clans with the Vampire ability, a Vampire Horse. Yeah. And just some characters didn't convert over from whatever system they were in to GURPS Supers. We were playing a Champions game. We converted it to GURPS Supers, and some of the characters just didn't work in GURPS Supers the way they worked in Champions, even though they're technically sort of the same thing. But again, it comes to that optimization, and of course, it's the swimming argument. When I was playtesting IST, there was a Aquaman inspired character, an underwater character, and they didn't give him swimming. And I repeatedly argued with him that, he should have at least 1 point in swimming, or 1 point in scuba, or one underwater basket weaving or tactics swimming. Here's a guy who basically was Aquaman. He would know how to swim. And Steve Jackson Games' defense was no, his default, because you could have default skills, based upon his strength, was high enough that he could swim without the swimming school. And I was like, yeah, okay. He basically has, because of the default, has a swim speed, and he can swim, but he doesn't know how to swim. And those are completely different things. Your default swim is basically treading water. Swimming is an acquired skill. Some people swim better than other people. Olympic level swimmers definitely swim better than me, dog paddling in the water and doing the backstroke or whatever. So some people swim better than others. Some people have professional level of swimming. Some people can surf. Scuba diving is definitely completely different than just swimming. Underwater rescue skills, definitely different than just swimming. Deep diving and, being able to maneuver in like the Marianas Trench, again, other levels of skills. And an Aquaman should at least know the basics of swimming and be as good, if not better, than an Olympic level swimmer. Plus have the innate understanding, if they're Aquaman, of how operating in the 3D environment that is underwater would work, because you're not just dealing with this and this when you're underwater, you're also dealing with this and this and this, and you might have bad guys attacking you from here and down there and in the dark, and water's very weird. It's an alien environment, and you should know, if you were a native of that alien environment, at least the bare necessities of how to survive in that alien environment. So give the motherfucking Aquaman character at least 1 point of swim. But they continued to argue did it, and that was just the beginning of the end of my relationship with Steve Jackson Games, because this argument came up during GURPS Cyberpunk, GURPS Time Travel, GURPS Martial Arts, and let's face it, I pretty much wrote GURPS Time Travel and GURPS Martial Arts, and every GURPS game I worked on, I was keep running into the same arguments. Like, God, you're trying to make your game something it's not. You're relying too much on defaults. You're relying too much on the min-maxing. Basically, you're making a lot of great source books, but your game is kind of, anyways. So obviously, I couldn't talk about GURPS Mega Power March without talking about the GURPS Super system. I know there are definitely fans of the GURPS Super system, and it probably works if you like that D6 point-based style. But really, if you're going to play point-based, either do Champions, which is a much better, even though I'm not a fan of it, much better, what are they, Champions 7th edition now? Much better system than GURPS Supers, or do Bash, which is a much better system than GURPS Supers, or do Mutants and Masterminds, which, even though it's basically D20 Champions, Mutant and Masterminds 3rd edition is considered one of the best point-based superhero systems out there. So it obviously does the job real well. Completely ignored Champions New Millennium, which, again, I wrote. Good. I mean, it tried. It really did try. And there was a lot of great ideas, but I think when dealing with GURPS, they're great source books. The GURPS books are great source books, much like the Palladium books. Not that great of a system, which is weird because when it started, it was just so, there was something so simple and easy and attractive about GURPS that you could just convert anything to GURPS. And if in your mind you're running a character and you're like, I want this character to have this, but the game I'm playing doesn't really let me have this, i.e. Dungeons and Dragons at the time, GURPS let you have that because you could spend a point and pick up a skill that you thought your character would have, it like mining or singing or whatever, just because that was something you role-played, but GURPS actually let you do that. And for a while, GURPS worked so well that it broke the paradigm. Everybody was shifting to GURPS. But then everybody was finding that there were just sort of innate limitations in GURPS, and there was just things you can't do without taking 5 steps to do what other systems let you do in 1 or 2 steps. And eventually it was just like, there's better ways to do this, simpler ways to do this, easier ways to do this. It just sort of became a mess. But GURPS Supers. So yeah, I worked on it. GURPS IST. I played lots of characters with it. I found lots of things wrong with it. I had a lot of trouble with GURPS Supers, and eventually I just gave it up for other games. I found Heroes Unlimited and Villages and Vigilantes to just do the job better. And if I wanted to play point-based supers, there was Champions. And if I wanted to play an easy point-based supers, Savage Worlds, which is something we'll talk about in a different vlog, is a surprisingly great system. But there you go, GURPS Supers. If you appreciate this content, Let me know. If you're a fan of GURPS Supers, let me know. If we ever played GURPS Supers together at Humboldt State University, let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Help me hit 500 subs by August 4th, and there will be insanity. But until then, I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming. I don't feel good, so get off my lawn.